welcome back to Politics, a podcast about politics in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. I'm Adri, your co-host and recovering English major.
And I'm Julianna, your other co-host and Hufflepuff and runner. And today we're discussing Chapter 5 of Order of the Phoenix and the politics of access to knowledge. So, like we've been starting our other episodes, we would like to just come at you at the top of the episode with our question for all of our listeners. How has Harry Potter affected your politics? You can let us know at 915-996-1699. You can email us or send us a audio voice clip recording of yourself at info@aciopolitics.com or hit us up on any of the socials at aciopolitics.
You can you can also go to our website and fill out the contact us form and leave us your comment there.
Yes, we have a brand new fancy website that Adri designed, so go check it out.
Yay! Okay. How you doing today, Juliana?
Oh, just peachy, Adri.
Juliana just came back from a run.
I did. It's actually very pretty and gorgeous out today. It's like almost 60, which is crazy.
That's insane. I love it.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers for like the second week in January, July, because that would be bonkers too for in January. But it was really nice, and I went out with one of my friends, and yeah. Anything exciting for you happen on your side?
Well, it is nice out in San Antonio, Texas, where I live. I am, I don't know, trying to keep myself busy this weekend by engaging in a lot of the really new hobbies that I have, one of which includes watercolor painting.
Yeah, just like the watercolors that you are, which are going to be so cool. And I think you just mailed out the most recent Patreon sticker
batch,
little mini boxes, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So, for those of you who do not know, our Patreon will be, instead of monthly rewards, the rewards will continue on a monthly basis in terms of every month you're a patron, you will get a sticker. But instead of mailing those every single month, we will be mailing those out kind of like a subscription box every 3 months.
Yeah, something fun that you can look forward to and then forget that it's coming. And then when it shows up in your mailbox, you're like, oh boy, this is the most fun thing. And I forgot that it was coming.
Exactly.
That's what I do with my subscription boxes.
Oops. Yep, that's what I do too. With anything I order, I'm like, oh yeah, I did have like that 1 a.m. order on Amazon.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I'm like, what did I order? I don't know what I ordered.
Oh, a surprise for me. Thanks, Drunk Adri, you know?
Yeah, or random people who shall go unnamed currently who send you big rocks in the mail that you don't want and then end up returning.
Oh boy, loaded. Anyhow, let's talk about something other than rocks, which are maybe not the best gift.
Yeah, so we shall talk about Chapter 5, which is the Order of the Phoenix. So this is where we get the title chapter for the book. Usually there's, I think every book has one.
Yes, and usually it comes a little bit later.
I was going to say, normally I feel like it's towards like the end, but I think somewhat that's because usually whatever the title is isn't revealed its actual like
purpose,
yeah, isn't revealed until the end, like the Chamber of Secrets, the Deathly Hallows, the Half-Blood Prince. These are things we don't actually learn the full meaning of until like pretty darn close to the end. Whereas we're learning about the Order of the Phoenix right now.
In like Chapter 5, which is pretty big.
Yeah, I know. This chapter actually has a decent amount of stuff going on in it.
Oh boy, does it ever.
Yeah. So at the top of the chapter, we are at 12 Grimwald Place, which is actually Sirius's parents' house. They're dead, so it belongs to Sirius. And we have Mr. Weasley and Bill greet Harry. Mundungus Fletcher is there. Harry's just so thrilled about that. And then we find out that Sirius has been stuck in there the whole month, and he's really not happy about that. And it looks like Voldemort knows that Sirius is a dog animagus now, so that's partially why Dumbledore has told him he can't go anywhere, is because now he can't even go outside as a dog anymore without people who are related to Voldemort knowing. So that's all fun.
Yeah, and I keep wondering, like, how does well, you know, other than Peter Pettigrew, right? Like, did like Snape like also let that, you know, just get out there just in case if Peter didn't say it?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to me that Snape wouldn't have ratted out Sirius as being an animagus between like Hogwarts and when Lily and James die, because Sirius and Snape like legitimately like hate each other. Like, wouldn't he have told someone else? Like, oh yeah, like Sirius the dog. Yeah, okay. Oh, maybe people. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. But again, we'll just.
But plot holes, you say?
No, there were no plot holes in this book. Oh boy. So we are at the house, and then Mr. Weasley, Bill, and Lupin are talking about whether or not the goblins and the giants and everyone else are going to join Voldemort. There's a lot of conversations going on, and we're just all talking. Mundungus is talking, Sirius is talking. Mrs. Weasley tries to send the kids off to bed, but Sirius is like, well, Harry, I thought you would have asked about Voldemort sooner. And Harry's like, well, I kind of tried to figure out what was going on, but no one would tell me anything, and you guys aren't telling Ron or Ginny or George or Fred or Hermione anything, so we don't know what's going on. And pretty much Mrs. Weasley and Sirius get into a fight over who has the right to tell Harry what he should know and pretty much be his parent.
Yeah, so like Molly and Sirius have very different opinions on how Harry should be raised.
Yeah, and I mean, technically speaking, Sirius does have the closest, like, actual relationship and place to being a parent because he technically is his godfather, and that's more of an actual given role by his parents than Mrs. Weasley. But I would argue that Mrs. Weasley is much more of an adopted parent than Sirius ever was because she actually acts like his mother, I think, throughout the entirety of the series. So who's acting like a parent? I think it would be Molly, who logistically speaking is probably entitled to be his parent. It's probably Sirius.
Those are two different things, though. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's a very different situation on each side, and they are both trying to walk that line, and they don't get along in this moment.
Well, and it's also a sort of power struggle, right? Like Molly feels like she's doing, you know, what's best for Harry, and so does Sirius. They just have different opinions on what's best for Harry.
And there's also more of a power dynamic too, because Molly is in charge of Fred, George, Ginny, and Ron, and she sees that they want to get in on the action too, and she's like, no, 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 I am your actual mother. But then she realizes that Harry is going to tell them everything anyway, and she kind of feels kind of deflated and defeated at that point, I feel like.
Oh, of course, but also Arthur, in a rare moment of dissenting with Molly, right, is like, well, Molly, I mean, you might be taking it a little bit too far.
Yeah, usually he just agrees, but at this point he doesn't.
And I think it's because there's more at the line, right? Like there's
yeah.
It's not about like, well, you can't take the car out because of this reasons. It's more like, well, I mean, yeah, like Voldemort is a big threat and they should know.
Well, and the thing is too, Harry is very much so directly related to everything that is happening. And if I were Harry in this situation and people were like, your life is on the line, and Voldemort wants to kill you, but we're not going to tell you anything,
Oh,
I
God.
would be ripshit.
I would be so mad.
Yeah, I fully get where Harry is coming from. Like, tell me all the things, please, because if my life is on the line, I want to know why. Please and thank.
Yeah, and as a side note, like Molly and Sirius disagreeing so forcefully and both being so passionate and like and knowing that it, well, in their minds, right, they both know they're right in their own ways, and kind of debating that is the most Gryffindor thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, pretty much. They both
because it's not intellectual debate as much as it is just a passionate debate about,
it's a power struggle.
Yeah. And it's the most Gryffindor thing I have ever seen, and I love it.
Truly. But in this situation, Lupin is the one who provides the voice of reason. He says that it's better that Harry gets the facts and not just a garbled up version that he could find on the street and from others. And finally, Harry and the rest of the gang get to learn about the news that Voldemort is flying low. And while he succeeded in coming back to life, his return was viewed by Harry's survival, and that Voldemort is building up his army again. So the Order is trying to stop Voldemort from gaining followers. So, to hold on to his power, Fudge isn't trying to make Dumbledore and Harry both unreliable and untruthful because he doesn't want them to believe that Voldemort is back. So, as we know earlier, the Ministry is trying to work against both Harry and Dumbledore. The Order is trying to contradict what the Ministry is doing, but they're having a hard time just because of all the logistics of like being a werewolf and no one really trusting Arthur at the Ministry anyway. Like the resident whack job. And then Sirius, who's wanted for murder and can't really do anything or leave the house. And then people not wanting to lose their jobs at the Ministry because they actually have to support their families in some way, shape, or form. So they're all just worried about a lot of things. And we also learn at the end that Voldemort is putting together some elusive weapon that he didn't have before.
Dun, dun, dun.
What it is. The end of it.
Yeah, well, but at the same time, I think this. I know we're talking about the politics of, access to knowledge, but this chapter is also very important in talking about how sometimes people are, part of like the Ministry, which is obviously a place that is not completely telling the truth or is wanting to ignore the truth because they have to support their families and also because they have to be in there to know what's happening inside it. And that doesn't necessarily make them complicit with the actions of the Ministry as long as they're working to make a better future from their positions right there.
Yeah, they're kind of stuck in a position that gains them a few things, like obviously being able to support their family and getting more information, but it's not ideal in any way, shape, or form.
Well, and a lot of us have to go to work, right? And like not every job I've ever had has been like completely altruistic and great, but it's a choice that a lot of us have to make.
Yeah, it's part of being an adult. Sometimes it sucks.
And capitalism, like it's part of being an adult in capitalism.
Yeah, that's very true. But the politics that we picked for this week, as Avery already said, is the politics of access to knowledge. We kind of already touched on some of this when we were doing the chapter summary about power struggle between Molly and Sirius, and then also we added Stephen and Mr. Weasley as well. Just kind of seeing the adults as gatekeepers. Yeah, because they're the ones who feel and in a lot of situations are the ones who determine what kind of information kids have access to. And I mean, I saw this when I was growing up too, and it's sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. It's not good to let kids not know anything, especially if it's a situation that is directly impacting them, like this one chapter. So the fact that Mrs. Weasley just wants Harry to go in blind, I don't think is the best strategy.
Yeah, she means well, but is not the best.
Yeah, it would be better if he knew some things, and I fully agree with Luke that he's gonna learn what's going on anyway. It's like when a rumor starts at work and you hear like the last version of it, and you're like, whoa, Bob has a pet elephant? And like really it was like that Bob was taking Friday off and it really wasn't like that exciting of a rumor.
Yeah, rumors, they have a mind of their own, man.
Yeah. They kind of twist and turn and bend and break. But I fully agree with Lupin in that situation. But yeah, we see the adults gatekeepers.
Oh, adults. Who needs them?
Nah.
Oh, they're the worst. That's
They are.
that's kind of how I feel a lot of the like YA books are. It's just like adults don't get it.
They don't understand.
And really they don't. And really they don't, but you know.
Truly. Makes me laugh.
I'm an adult now. Don't like it. Do not recommend it.
Yeah, I was like, when can I go back to being a kid again? Okay, thanks. Tomorrow sounds good.
Yeah, but also Dumbledore is like a like looming presence in this chapter, right? Like Dumbledore is like one of the biggest people that restricts access to knowledge from Harry.
Oh yeah, 100%. And we saw that in the previous chapters too.
And Molly uses Dumbledore as an excuse, like, well, you know what Dumbledore says. Don't tell Harry more than he needs to know. But like that is such a subjective directive because if you let Sirius tell Harry, not more than Harry needs to know, he's going to learn everything. If you let Molly, he will learn nothing.
And I wrote this in the doc too because I thought it was funny when it popped in my head. I crowned her as Dumbledore's honorary knowledge guard.
Oh, I love it. Talk to me more about that.
I feel like as you just said, she feels entitled to restrict what information Harry's getting. And she has, as far as I'm aware, she has not been told outside of anyone else, like told different from anyone else in the group, not to tell Harry specific things. And I'm sure Dumbledore has probably actually sat down with Sirius more than anyone else to tell him not to tell Harry things. And Sirius is pretty much just like, nah, not going to. And Mrs. Weasley has just taken it because she sees herself as Harry's mother and the mother figure of the entirety of the group to be the one who is advocating for Harry to not know anything and to stand behind Dumbledore literally almost until she dies. So she has crowned herself the honorary knowledge guard.
I love that title.
I chuckled when I read stuff. We also see in this chapter they debate over like who is a member versus not a member and like how old is old enough to know things.
Yeah, right? Like that's really weird. Like how does age intersect with knowledge?
Yeah, and I mean it made me think too like laws around cigarettes or drinking or even getting a driver's license. Why are we picking those ages? Because you look at other countries, they have different ages for things. And I'd like to think that, biologically speaking, maturity levels don't vary that much by country. I understand that certain cultures definitely promote maturity more than other cultures do. But it just begs the question, like, how old is old enough? if you're 18, is that really old enough to buy cigarettes? I mean, I might be an 18-year-old who has the brain of a 5-year-old, and I can also buy cigarettes, and so can the 18-year-old who has the brain of like a 25-year-old who's very mature. And that's because we have the same biological age. We're given this privilege, but we mentally are in two completely different states.
Yeah, that's really interesting, like how like age and knowledge intersect, and how there are institutions that would regulate that. For instance, Fred and George can now do magic because they have come of age, but we see throughout the chapter that they are not using that power like the brothers before them, sorry, and they're not using it in ways that are sensible, right? But say Hermione could be trusted to use her powers that very moment, and she wouldn't do anything like the twins would have done. So even in instances where there are institutional laws that regulate like what people can and cannot do, with age, at age limitations, are not perfect because they're not accounting for individual maturity levels or sense, really.
Yeah, and I get that on a institutional like big stage level where you have like millions of people that you have to sort through and you have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
But in this chapter, Molly knows all her kids. This is like what, 6 people max who she is deciding get to hear the information. She knows these people very well and knows like where their maturity levels hang out. So she should have no issue kind of breaking the rules and not having to default back to saying that they're not of age. And those people of age can only do it unless, which I think she is just using this as a defensive mechanism to shield and kind of make her kids naive in a way.
Well, I think that Molly's instinct is to protect, and she thinks that knowledge, like the dispersion of that knowledge, is not going to protect her children. Like she thinks that the only thing that is going to protect her children's, like, quote unquote innocence is not knowing what's happening. But Sirius and Arthur, to a degree, right, and Lupin believe that the only way to really protect the kids would be to not to actually tell them what's going on.
Yeah, and give them the correct information instead of having them hear some kind of garbled up version that they hear on the streets or from
Yeah,
their friends at school.
exactly. Or like, because they probably subscribe to that the idea that a lack of knowledge actually makes you more vulnerable.
Yeah, and I fully agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, knowledge is power. That is correct.
Yeah, but did you have any other points that you wanted to make about this politics?
I think that give me 1 second.
Okay.
Um so we've talked about how, like, even the Ministry of Magic institutionalizes like how much like access people have to do things by, limiting age ranges, and
Mm-hmm.
having them fulfill certain tests like the apparition test, right? And like, kind of going through all that cycle. And but so does the Order of the Phoenix. Like, they have to have graduated from Hogwarts to join. So Dumbledore in a way also operates on that level. So,
Yeah.
you can only access this knowledge and put your life on the line, in certain ways, only after you graduate from Hogwarts, right? And then that is kind of discounting the fact that these children are often putting their lives on the line with less knowledge of what is going on. And sometimes that lack of knowledge, and then I understand that the series is about them figuring out all these things on their own, and it's honestly a series about acquiring knowledge in a way.
Mm-hmm.
and how that acquisition of knowledge through different means is leading their character's development. And Dumbledore, is acting as a guiding force to that development, but also it just makes things much more harder than they need to be for the children or the young adults in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like you said, one of the big themes of this book is the restriction of knowledge and them actually learning things as they go. And we see this a lot in the last book, and just see like how much Dumbledore has actually withheld, especially from Harry. And it is unfair to kids because they're the ones fighting on the front lines, essentially, when it all comes down to it. And they really don't even know what they're fighting for half the time.
Yeah, and that's
Which is
sad,
scary.
right? Like, scary and sad.
Yeah. So definitely I agree with what you said.
And this is not a Dumbledore hating podcast, obviously, but there are many things that Dumbledore does that, or withholds that I think he does for reasons he believed were valiant and truthful and good at the time. But also there are things where I was just like, well, but the whole thing about like Harry being a Horcrux, fine, understand that. But there are plenty other things that Harry should have known.
Oh yeah, there are a million other things that could have easily told Harry without having any like terrible repercussions for. And he just doesn't.
Ugh, Dumbledore.
Control issues, that's what that is.
I mean, I get it. Like, as someone with control issues, I kind of get it. But also,
I was gonna say, as someone with control issues.
as someone with control issues. I see you, Dumbledore. I see you.
We know that you are there. Okay.
But so yeah, in a way, like this series is not just the triumph over good versus evil. It's about acquiring knowledge and how the acquisition of that knowledge can make you into a better person because you need knowledge from different sources in all walks of life to make a well-rounded outlook on the world. So Tom Riddle didn't acquired knowledge, but he acquired knowledge from like all these biased sources, and he didn't like expand that circle of knowledge, which led him to become this person hell-bent on like seeking immortality at any cost and like acting out of a place from fear of dying and fear of like other people encroaching on his power, whereas Harry is much more open to learning, not in an academic way but in a more in like a social way about other people's points of view, and he's integrating like his lived experiences with other people's lived experiences, and he often acts from a place of compassion, even though like that's not like a super Gryffindor-y trait. But like I know he acts like very rashly, but in those ways where he acts very rashly, it's usually from a place of compassion and empathy. So which is why it really bothers him that he sees a little bit of Voldemort in himself, because he's afraid that he will become that. So he really counteracts that with acts of kindness and his hero complex, obviously.
Duh. He is a Gryffindor.
I am sorry we're like this, but we are who we are.
And that's okay.
All right, and that's it for me. I'm sorry. I feel like I've hogged the entire podcast.
Yeah, that's okay. You're doing just fine. So we'll just get into our quote then. So I will start us off with my quote. So I picked a quote that has multiple people in it.
Oh.
Multiple people. And it starts off with Weasley. And I'm going to try and do it dramatically again. Here we go.
I love this.
He is not a member of the Order of the Phoenix, said Mrs. Weasley. He's only 15 and he's dealt with as much as most in the Order, said Sirius. And more than some. No one's denying what he's done. Her voice risen her fists trembling and her arms on her chair. Oh, on the arms of her chair. But he's still. He's not a child, Sirius says impatiently. He's not an adult either, said Mrs. Weasley, the color rising in her cheeks. He's not James, Sirius. Thank you, and scene.
Ooh, that, I mean, why are you not reading the books? Like, on tape.
No one has hired me yet, probably because that Mrs. Weasley impression goes right through the head. So
stop. I love it. I love it. And you should tape some of the chapters for me, you reading them like this.
Truly, if people have know what, listeners, let us know what your favorite passages or chapters are in the book, and maybe I'll pick one and record it.
Yes!
With all the voices included, and we'll see how that goes.
And we can, oh my god, this is going to be great. I love this. I love this idea so much.
So if people actually hit us up and let us know, I will do it. It has to be wanted by the people. I'm
a people.
We have the brief abbreviated versions here. I'll just continue to at least pick quotes that have real dialogue in them.
Okay, got it. All right. So, talk about that quote.
Yeah. So this kind of is like the crux of Mrs. Weasley and Sirius fighting over who gets to decide what knowledge Harry has access to, and gives us more insight into the personal kind of vendettas they have against each other, and how that is playing into this whole scenario of who gets to tell Harry what, because it's not Harry's fault that Sirius thinks, and I'm going to side with Mrs. Weasley on this one, that Sirius thinks, I know, controversial, thinks that Harry is James, essentially. That's not Harry's fault. He has nothing to do with that, but that's something that's being held against the Sirius side of things. Pun not intended. This argument. So we see how their personal politics between each other is playing into the larger theme that we're looking at, and how Sirius probably does think that Harry is James, and that Sirius also is right, that Harry has dealt with a lot more things than most of the people in the Order, probably. I mean, what is hell is he at this point? Is he 15? 14? Can't remember. Someone correct me. But he's dealt with a lot. He's faced Voldemort 4 times at this point, and I'm sure half the people in the Order have never even faced Voldemort head to head. So I will give Sirius those points on that front. But I thought this quote just kind of exemplified the issue that was happening on the whole in the chapter. And which quote did you pick, Avery?
Oh, gosh. All right. So I had so many quotes to pick from because, honestly, this entire chapter is, about, who has access to knowledge and why. And I mean, isn't the entire book, right? The entire book series. But truly. Mine comes on page 94. And it starts like this. But you're telling people, aren't you? Said Harry, looking around at Mr. Weasley, Sirius, Bill, Mundungus, Lupin, and Tonks. You're letting people know he's back? They all smiled humorlessly. Well, as everyone thinks I'm a mad mass murderer and the ministry's put a 10,000 galleon price on my head, I can hardly stroll up the street and start handing out leaflets, can I? Said Sirius restlessly. And I'm not a very popular dinner guest with most of the community, said Lupin. It's an occupational hazard of being a werewolf. Tonks and Arthur would lose their jobs at the ministry if they started shooting their mouths off, said Sirius, and it's very important for us to have spies inside the ministry because you can bet Voldemort will have them. So, again, I mean, this access to knowledge part is a little bit more complicated than just who can talk, right? Or who can speak. It's also about who gets to impart that knowledge So if, for instance, Tonks and Arthur were to impart some knowledge, that has repercussions for them. Um, so I mean, for Sirius and for Lupin as well. So imparting knowledge also comes from a point of power and respect. And if people don't respect you, you can tell the truth and no one will believe you. And what good is that?
Oh, I think also that your quote has to do with who has the most to lose.
Oh, yeah, of course. So, like, Arthur and Tonks could lose their jobs, and Sirius could lose their freedom, and Lupin is just not well respected anyway.
Yeah, and as far as we know, too, it could be like banned some like werewolves only area or something
Ugh,
as well, or get stuck with Greyback. Like, oh boy, sounds like a treat to me.
ugh, what a treat.
What a treat. So, this chapter, who do you think exemplified our talk?
Oh wow, this chapter. I think that the twins for me exemplified this because they're so eager to use their newfound coming of age, right? As
Mm-hmm.
being legally adults as a card for trading in information. So they're very vocal about like the fact of like, well, but we are legally adults. Why can't you tell us? You're not the boss of me, mom. And she's like, you still live under my fucking roof.
I really like the idea of trading in a card for that and just having like an age card. Well, I guess that's kind of what a license is essentially, because that's what you do at a bar. You're like, here's my age card. No, you give
Exactly.
me alcohol.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Sadly, I stopped being carded at around 26.
I
And
don't
that
think that was. I mean, they card people who are my papa got carded for wine.
I
I
mean,
mean,
but like they card me at places where it's like the law to card anyone who looks younger
oh,
than
okay,
like whatever, or
97.
yeah, or like there are laws also that talk about anyone under like 16 need to be carded. Like it depends on the state, but like at
Oh, okay,
bars
they
very
don't card you.
very rarely do I get carded anymore, and like the small times where I have gotten carded recently, I've just been beaming and I was like, your tip just went up.
I'm a card chaser.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's just I mean, it is what it is. I'm in like my 30s. It's fine. I sometimes get mistaken for a 25-year-old at work, which really works against me in a lot of ways, specifically if we're talking about someone who's assuming I'm 25 and I'm not,
Mm,
and I'm in a leadership position, you know?
yeah.
So,
Mm.
but what if I was like a product, like a child prodigy, you know? Like, what if I like, you know, graduated from college at age 12 and I was 25 and I was in a leadership position? What then?
Well, those jerks would have it coming for them, and they wouldn't even take the time to bother to ask you anything.
Yeah, so
Anyway,
anyhow, sorry,
anyhow,
done.
that's okay. So the character that I picked Lupin, mostly because he makes the great point that though they can control what they're hearing, what Harry's hearing directly from them, they can't control what he's hearing from outside sources, be it his friends outside of this place, be it what he just hears on the street, be it what he hears at school. If he's going to start writing to some gossip column or see what Rita Skeeter's up to recently, they can only control so much. And Lupin makes the great point that they should just tell him the truth because clearly they know it. They're the source of the information rather than him getting some kind of like screwed up
Version from
weird
someone else,
version.
yeah. And like, you know, the Hogwarts students are going to be talking. Come on.
Oh yeah, there's what like only like 20 kids in each grade. Like I've seen some of the actual breakdowns, like what the logistics of Hogwarts actually could have been, and the class size is not really big. And you don't think 20 kids are gonna gossip? Oh, my friend, you are so wrong if that's what you
I
think.
mean, I like my grade class was 30 students because I went to a very small school
Mm-hmm.
in high school, and let me tell you, there was some hot goss.
Was that your graduating class? You
Yeah.
only had 30 kids?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had like 250.
Yeah, I went to a very small
That was
I went to a small Catholic school.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because we weren't even the biggest school in Massachusetts. There's another school that had like 1,000 kids per graduating class.
Oh yeah.
That's just because the school was all the other towns around it didn't have enough kids to make one school, so there were like 5 towns funneling kids to this one school. There was a lot of people at that school.
Yeah, the graduating class at the public school in the town I went to class like to school in was like 800 or 1,000 kids. Like it's
Yeah.
so it's just I went to I went to a small private school, which is why it was so small.
So I think we're done with the chapter then.
What? Oh my
Oh,
God! Are we
how far?
done?
How far? So then we will go into our media we've been consuming.
Of course,
Um,
of
so
course. What have you been watching?
Oh boy. So Project Runway is back, everyone. One of the only TV shows that I actually watch religiously. And they just had a new episode that was out last night. It was on my app last night. It comes out on Thursday. Thursday's on Bravo. It's not the original people. It's not Tim Gunn and it's not Heidi Klum, this is their second season, I believe, of not having that because they moved networks. They moved Lifetime to Bravo. And it's Christian Siriano and I can't remember. Oh, Kirsty Kloss.
Carly
Carly
Claus,
Kloss?
yes.
Carly Kloss. Yeah, she's the host. And I was really skeptical that I was going to like this. And honestly, I like it. I mean, I miss Tim Gunn a little bit, but I I don't know. I still really love it. And
I
I got
mean,
in.
there's no way you cannot miss Tim Gunn because he is fantastic.
Oh, he's a gem to the world. Him and like Paul and like some of these other people, like they just need their own like little pedestals that we can just have them sit on and admire them because they are gifts from God to us. So that being said, I got into just briefly. I got into Project Runway because I went to college at Framingham State, Massachusetts, and I had two lovely people who I was actually in classes with them, and they ended up on Project Runway, which is bonkers. Because one of them I met at the freshman retreat, like before college started.
Huh.
Like that one where you like go and you're like, hi, I'm here before start, and I'm so nervous. And yeah, so shout out to Corey. He's doing real well. I don't think he'll ever listen to this, but that's okay.
Oh, but that's nice.
Yeah, he's funny. He's very sassy. Like he was the Queen of Shade, I believe was his title with among the participants in that season.
Oh my God, I love this.
He definitely was like that in real life too. Like they fully did not edit him to make him look that different than he is in real life. But he's still a nice guy. It made me laugh so hard because I knew that the way that he was being portrayed on TV was exactly the way he is in person. I was like, oh, I see you, Corey, and I love to appreciate you.
But that's really good that it was just people being true to themselves.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. So, what have you been consuming this week?
Well, I'm going to first make a comment about Tim Gunn because I cannot hear his name without being like
Because he's amazing.
completely enamored of him. I love Tim Gunn so much. He has a few books out that have been pretty good, and he's really talked about a lot about, like his sexuality and, being celibate for a long time and how that doesn't
Oh
diminish
wow.
like his appreciation of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is a lot of people, you know, don't don't talk about those aspects of their lives. And I think that, especially for like asexual folks, those are things like representation matters. And I'm very happy that he's, been kind of vocal about his asexuality. And that's very brave of him. And I love Tim Gunn. I can't not say that. I have,
Yeah, I didn't know this about him. Now I love him even more. He truly does need a pedestal.
he's the best. And I've been listening to. I mean, this is one of my favorite podcasts. Anyway, I love Slate podcasts, and
Mhm.
they have this podcast called Dear Prudence, which is hosted by Danny Lavery now, and he is providing advice to people who write letters. So it's like an advice column also at Slate. It's an advice column at Slate, but it is also a podcast where he provides advice to listeners. And it's just to listen to how he provides the most thoughtful, and him and his guests provide the most thoughtful and compassionate advice to people in a way that is doesn't feel alienating in an era where like some people try to be edgy in providing advice, right? Like being like just whatever, and kind of be edgy about it is really refreshing and great, and we need more of that in the world. But also calling out people when they're wrong too. You know what I mean? Like it's not just all sunshines and rainbow, but like even calling out people with respect. I just think that's pretty great, and I wish I could learn how to do that more often in my life.
I just subscribed to it on the podcast.
It's great. You will love it.
It looks really good. I love a good podcast. I already have 20 to 30 subscriptions to podcasts.
Oh,
Do I
girl.
listen to all of them normally? Actually, usually I do because I have like an hour commute each way to work.
Yeah, sometimes I just listen to them while I'm doing watercolor painting or something, or at my lunch break. Just something to kind of break up your day. And also I think when we talked about when I talked about Harry and how he learns from different perspectives, I think something that podcasts have afforded a lot of us is to hear from different perspectives that maybe we wouldn't have had access to. And I think we would be also remiss in, like, we're talking about access to knowledge, and I know we're talking about media, but we wouldn't have as much access to knowledge in our world, right? If the internet hadn't it been, in existence. And that is a double-edged sword, because then we have like, you know, white supremacists and men rights activists and hateful people like incels um proliferating the internet and spreading misinformation or their point of view, which gets absorbed by other people. But we also have access to other points of view that we have not had access to, maybe in our personal lives, like stories of what it is to be a trans Black woman, for instance. So like I think that even though it's a double-edged sword, if we um take the spirit of like openness but also still keeping like a good head on our shoulders, like that access could prove to be beneficial to all of us.
Definitely, I agree with that. Yeah, that's one of the main reasons that I love podcasts to kind of expand my knowledge base and learn about things that I wouldn't have learned about otherwise.
Yeah, I listen to
So,
podcasts to not there's like one about plants, because I gotten really into plants lately. It's like it's called On the Ledge, and it's like, okay, so how do I not kill my plants?
that's very useful.
It's very useful knowledge, let me tell you.
Okay, so AJ, where can we find you?
You can find me on Insta and on Twitter at AnanaBanana.
And you can find me at Julianna, like Greek jelly, _runs on Instagram. I never check my Twitter. So hit me up there and I won't respond.
Well, and then you could also find us on all the socials at Occupolitics, the podcast. And if you want to support the podcast and get some sweet, sweet rewards, you can go to patreon.com/Occupolitics for as little as $2 a month.
Ooh.
And that $2 a month, let me tell you, doesn't get you a sticker, but it does get you The Girl Who Lived, which is an exclusive podcast series that I record with producer Helene, And maybe Juliana will want to join me on that one too at some point for
Oh,
some
yeah.
episodes. And also an exclusive webcomic series, A Life a day in the life of a Hogwarts's admin staff, which looks at.
Start saying that quick fast.
I know it's so long. Oh my god, I had the worst idea for titles. But the idea is let's look at the administrative staff of Hogwarts in 1991 and 1990 and beyond, and how they coped with having Harry there,
Not well.
and also Dumbledore mostly.
Yeah. And they're pretty funny. The ones that you've already drawn up, definitely got a good chuckle out of them. So listeners are in for something pretty good.
Well, I sure hope so.
Oh boy. So we're just going to wrap up with our question for our listeners, which is the one we had at the top of the episode, which is how has Harry Potter affected your politics, i.e., your views, how you view the world, things such as that. Refer back to the trailer episode, please, and give that a listen. And so how you can let us know is at our phone number, which is 915-996-1699. Send us either a written email or a voice memo that you recorded at info@aciopolitics.com, or you can hit us up again on any of the socials at aciopolitics, and we look forward to getting all of your responses. Please and thanks.
Well, that's it for the show today, Juliana. I'm very sad to be ending it.
Yeah, well, until next time, politics, man.
All right, we got it.